Well, good morning, everyone. Diana Minotti with Diana Minotti Fine Art Antiques and Collectibles. I am here with my husband, Perry Mitrano,
Yes, good morning.
and we have a very special guest with us, Ed.
Siarkowicz.
Wanted to make sure that was correct. He is with the Historical Society, the Flagler County Historical Society. We know each other for quite some time, Ed, from various things in the community. You're an artist, and so we really welcome you here. This is an exciting show. You have lots to tell us. Before we kick it off, I do want to mention that we have a show at the gallery, a sale called Everything Green for St. Patrick's Day, which is coming up. And so I highlighted, if you go on our website, you'll see pictures of green items, anything for St. Patrick's Day to get you in the spirit, get you in the mood, give a gift. We have a very special sale coming up next week called Artist Den of Tropical Delights. And he is such a neat guy. I've really enjoyed spending time with him. He's a painter and a previous builder, and he's just his collection is anything tropical. It's a lot of historic Florida souvenir like things,
And that'll be posted coming
toys.
up, right? That'll be
That'll
posted.
I do have it online, but I'm going to be continuing to add photographs. We're doing our research. We finally got it all inventoried, so it is going to be one heck of a show. So
And we are located at 15 Palm Harbor Village Way, right here in Palm Coast, behind the sheriff's office on North Old Kings Road. And come on in, give us a visit. I'm there usually during the week, and I'll be happy to share some stories of the items that we have in there with
I
you.
hold court on Thursdays, and for scheduled appraisals, sales, specific sales appointments, people want to discuss
I've
paintings.
had a lot of people come in this week asking about items that they have, and it's nice to see. And a lot of them did tell us that it was about the radio show that they're stopping in.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
All right, terrific, terrific. All right, so Ed, with the Flagler County Historical Society, my first question though is, what is the history of the city of Bunnell?
But Bunnell's history extends far back, much further back than you would expect. In the late 1890s, a man by the name of Alva Bunnell moved over from the way of Palatka and built a sawmill. The sawmill was cutting mostly roofing shingles for houses that were being constructed in the area. The sawmill became very prosperous. His workers built houses around the sawmill. And as Henry Flagler's railroad was going through at the time, in order to drop off supplies and workers and pick things up and ship them to other parts of the state, the sawmill area became known as the Bunnell Stop. And the Bunnell Stop, as we turned into the 1900s, became eventually a town and then an incorporated city, and then the crossroads of Flagler County after Flagler County was incorporated in 1917 from parts of St. John's and Volusia counties.
so Bunnell was here before Flagler County.
Bunnell was here before Flagler County.
Interesting.
It was.
I remember one of my trips to the Holden House, which is where the Historical Society is based out of, right?
Mhm.
There was a book that had all of the people that lived there, and it seemed like a very high percentage of them were cobblers building barrels, and the barrels were for the turpentine. You see, like if you go up and down US 1, especially around the Princess Place Preserve, that area, Old Kings Road, you can see how the trees were planted in a line and they still stand that
Did
way.
you say moonshine?
Barrels had many uses in Flagler County back in the early
Yeah, I think
days.
there was a lot of interesting
Not
things
not the
going on in
least of
Flagler
which
County.
was turpentine. Also, galvanized steel barrels were used for turpentine because turpentine is corrosive, and it would eat through the wood over time. But potatoes, which were and now still are one of Flagler County's largest commodities of agriculture, were shipped in wooden barrels. There was actually a barrel factory in Bunnell.
And speaking of potatoes, tell us about the potato crop and how important it is to and how big it is. A lot of people don't even notice. Don't forget we're for those who are listening outside of WNZF radio, and you might be in another state and all. We are located in Flagler County, in a city right now called Bunnell, Florida, Bunnell. So, in case you want to look it up on a Google map.
The entire history of Flagler County, even far before there was a Bunnell, because of the nature of the land, western Flagler County is actually part of a floodplain. Crescent Lake, that borders Flagler County, is connected to the St. Johns River, which is connected to the Atlantic Ocean. And because of that, any kind of storm surge combined with heavy rains, Crescent Lake will overflow into the Haw Creeks, and that'll overflow into what is now agricultural land, which makes it very fertile. It's like the Mississippi Delta almost in a way. So that kind of sets the stage for today's agriculture. Historically, even as far back as the first Spanish period, the 1590s, this area was the agricultural breadbasket for the military fort in St. Augustine. So agriculture extends that far back. When England took over Florida from Spain in the 1760s, and after King's Road was built in 1767, which connected St. Augustine down to the New Smyrna colony in what's now New Smyrna Beach, there were hundreds of plantations that were constructed along King's Road to include Sea Island cotton, indigo, sugarcane, corn, all kinds of things. So it's because Flagler County soil is very rich. So those traditions have extended forward through first Spanish, British, second Spanish, colonial, and then through the Patriot eras of the early 1800s, the Civil War, cattle, agriculture, potatoes, cabbage, corn, bok choy, purple potatoes, something that's being grown by season. If you take a ride out west, out 100 or 305 or 302 or any of those county roads out there, you'd be amazed at what's growing here locally.
I always enjoy doing get out of the city and take a ride, and all you have to do is go, 15 minutes, and you're in the country.
Not even, yeah. Cattle too. Cattle is a huge business here in the county.
So tell us, there's a big event coming up also, right? We have I worked for the city of Bunnell. Kristen Bates and I, who's the assistant city manager, I believe, we were hired about within 1 month of each other, and the biggest event of the period was the 2013 100th year anniversary of the city of Bunnell, and they buried a time capsule and all that kind of stuff there, and it was a great event. Everybody dressed up in period clothes. Mayor Kathleen Robinson, she was dressed as I guess a teacher or something. I can't quite remember. And city manager at the time was Armando Martinez. He was a very visionary guy. And Commissioner John Rogers was there, and we had antique cars and all of that, vintage. It was really quite. And this was around Lake Lucille at the Coquina City Hall, one of the oldest buildings. And please tell us about that and the Holden House, the Cisco Dean archives, Little Red Schoolhouse, the courthouse, and all that.
I'm going to do it all in one breath. You ready?
I think you can do a lot.
All right.
Go ahead. Take your time.
So I'm going to hold the flyer up. I want to make sure with our programming person that it's visible. Yeah, you see it. So June 7th of this year, we're going to be putting on Bunnell History Day. It's going to be the Flagler County Historical Society in conjunction with the city of Bunnell and other stakeholders and partners. One of the greatest things that's happened here recently is we brought into our fold of merry amateur historians Elaine Studnicki, who is the past president of the Palm Coast Historical Society. She's the former historian for the city of Palm Coast, and she is now our grant writer and also special and signature events developer and coordinator. And she came up with the concept of Bunnell History Day, celebrating the 114th anniversary of the city of Bunnell. And she has put together an event that's awesome to take a look at. So we are going to be centered at the Holden House Museum, which is right across from the historic 1926 Flagler County Courthouse and its event fields. That's going to be the center of Bunnell History Day. And what we're going to be hosting are a collection of historians, professional historians, that are going to be giving talks on segments of this part of Florida's history. We're going to have historians and reenactors and demonstrators both set up on the properties and also wandering around, engaging with and speaking to guests. We're going to have a food truck area, vendors of homemade crafts and locally sourced goods and things like that, a mechanical bull, a bounce house for, and I've seen you in public several times with a cowboy hat on. So
Yes.
I may make you the master of ceremonies for this
I'll
mechanical
be happy
bull.
to be
All right,
there and
that's
help
good.
you out. Yes.
So,
Are they
so,
going to fry potatoes?
I don't have the list with me, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's fried potatoes. 'Cause
That's the highlight of the day.
Yep.
I mean, you get in line and wait and get those potatoes when they're fresh fried like that.
There's going to be a kids area with a bounce house, face painting, all kinds of great things. Farmers market. We're going to have the Holden House, the Cisco Dean Research Library open for tours. Also, several other historic homes and properties in the area. The Little Red Schoolhouse Museum, which was put together by Diane Marquis, who was a 35-year teacher at Bunnell Elementary School. She converted the 1938 FFA, Future Farmers of America building, into and staged it as a one-room schoolhouse to 1917, which was the incorporation date of Flagler County. That's going to be open for tours. It's going to be a great all-day event, June 7th.
It sounds wonderful. We love Elaine. She's always been a big supporter. So that's really great. And I commend you, Ed, in following through and pushing through. I know you probably missed Cisco and
Very important character to our community, Cisco. We used to have breakfast with him and his wife, lovely wife. They're a beautiful couple.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to have breakfast, Tom, the police chief at the time, Tom Foster, and I, and we'd meet Ed, and we'd go over to the bagel place because it was a really good bagel there. And we would sit down, and he was there, and we always got into a conversation about some historical factor or going on. And he had his book. He wrote a book. What a wonderful man. He passed away,
we have quite a few writers. Ryan,
Bill
Mr. Ryan,
Ryan, Cisco Dean,
Art Dyke.
Randy J. has written books about the county. Art Dyke, another one. We have upcoming writers as well. Caleb Hathaway, who is now a senior at FPC, has written 3 books,
Wow.
Really?
all around Flagler County history.
It's amazing.
That is really
It
fantastic.
really is. Yeah, Cisco Dean passed away. It's been a couple of years now. Of course, it was a great loss. Cisco's sister, Claudia Dean Malo, has said many times that every time an older person passes away, it's like a library burning to the ground. And that's why it's so important for us to reach out to the elder portion of our community to get their stories before they're gone, because they are the witnesses to the history as it's happened. Growing up in high school, history was not my thing.
What?
It was not. It was
You
not my
are
thing.
an historian.
No,
You learn something new every day about it.
Truthfully, and I'll be very transparent. History to me back in the day, was boring, just full of names and dates and things that I'm never going to use again for the rest of my life, just like math. But then you find out that you need math. You need math every day, and you really do need history. So
I was the art major who stayed in the arts because I didn't want to do math. Do you know how much math I do every day?
every single day.
Percentages, commissions, sales, budgets.
So we're talking about the past a little bit? Okay. All
So-
right, I got a story when you're done, Ed.
So real quick. So here's what I've come to learn about history. History is about facts and figures and dates and names, but it's more about absorbing and learning the life lessons of the people that have come before you, so that it can change the lenses on the glasses that you view your world with. You can take you can get grandfatherly or grandmotherly advice from anybody that fits into that age bracket, and take their life lessons from this area and apply it to your own life. And not only does that help you to have a survival skill set, but it also lets you look at the future coming towards you, because sometimes history repeats. And knowing the lessons of the past help you to see the present and the future to make you more adaptable to situations that are
Well,
going to
what
come.
I think that's so important about you putting on this event is that there are so many new people coming to the community that really don't know or have a sense of history of what our area really was
Bunnell
and
has
where it's
doubled.
going.
But Bunnell has doubled in size since I worked there in 2013. Correct?
So, what's then the big picture? This kickoff event, inaugurating, having a Bunnell Day. But what is it really a segue to?
So it's a segue into bringing a spotlight onto Bunnell. Bunnell has always been the county seat, the crossroads. It's the crossroads of Flagler County. And over the years, it's become not necessarily sleepy because it's busy. It's busy all the time. But other areas of the county have certainly far outgrown what Bunnell has done. And just like back in the 90s when I was living in St. Augustine, and you went into Palaca, you came over the bridge into downtown Palaca. Palaca was, with all due respect, a little bit of a mess back then. And it took a Bassmasters signed contract for an annual fishing tournament.
The
to put
Azalea Festival.
the Azalea Festival to put a spotlight back on Palaca and the buildings and the streets that had really, gone downhill. Suddenly, were being renovated because they knew annually they were going to have all these fishermen coming into the town. So the buildings were redone. What was empty now full of coffee shops and restaurants and antique shops. Art mural district. Art murals were put on different buildings representing the history, and now it's an official district. There's history districts. There's tourists coming because they want to be involved. They want to see what's going on. And Bunnell has the same bones of buildings, historic commercial buildings, 140 original Bunnell Development Colony homes behind the Holden House in that neighborhood right there, still standing in various states of appearance. But these are all things that still exist, can be restored and renovated, and really bring the community together with a sense of pride and belonging.
So Ed, you got a $5,000 grant.
So we did. We got a $5,000 grant from the state of Florida Humanities Council for this event. We've raised additional money to really make this event be great and something that carries over year to year. We're continuing to look for sponsors and vendors and whatnot. And you can go on the Flagler County Historical Society's website or Facebook page to learn more about the event, vendor spaces, and also ways that
And
you
it-
can
I,
support it.
I like the idea of a historical district, and what you're trying to create is really important for Flagler County and putting us on the map. We've become we can't compete with Ormond Beach being Ormond and Daytona being
Well,
race
they're at the
week,
beach.
bike week, race week, big events, and St. Augustine being that true oldest city in our country. So how do we compete with that? And we've become sort of this ecotourism. We've got biking and hiking trails, and
I have my bike week shirt. I have my bike Harley Davidson shirt on here.
so we're kind of in the middle of a lot of beauty. And I think if we bring that more old town, historic district, and that farm to table aspect, I think that's where we really do shine.
Well, they're working on it.
We used to have the logo was a potato.
Right.
I know it's changed to palm trees but it really was at the potato.
Ed, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Because there's something we're lacking here. You're a published artist. You're a photographer. Tell us.
Well, when I was 5 years old, now I won't go back there. So I was born in New York City, grew up on eastern Long Island on a dairy goat farm out in the country. Went to undergraduate school, went to graduate school, became a chiropractor. I practiced as a chiropractor, both in St. Augustine and in Flagler County for years. Retired happily, and decided to pursue a lifelong passion for photography. Had my work exhibited in a number of galleries, both here and in Maine. My work is in the offices of some mucky mucks, and then back in 2016, I had the amazing opportunity to be mentored by Pierre Matisse, who was the grandson of Henri Matisse. Worked with him for 5 years. Just an amazing time, and with that, history, the arts, things that are culturally minded and that really build up people's character have been a passion for mine.
Very nice.
Well, I brought, in your honor, I brought you a photograph, and what we thought we'd bring for our show and tell items were items that you would find in the Holden House, or in some of this little red schoolhouse. These are some of the things that we have at the gallery for sale. That if you want to feel part of that period and that genre, if you're decorating or you're just inspired, you have there a daguerreotype of a gentleman. Perry, you want to hold up the carpet beater? If you're
And this is beautiful. This reminds me of the tintypes that we got from the collection of Diane Marquis, who was the past president of the Historical Society. And every face, every picture has a story. If you have things like this at home in boxes and you have no attachment to them, don't throw them away. Make sure you donate them, bring them to Diana Minotti or to a historical society so that we can research it and find out their story, because their story can, again, teach kids and their families about the present. So this reminds me of, well, you got it. This reminds me of the wooden spoon on my mother's kitchen wall. You know, that's a carpet beater used to clean carpets before there were vacuum cleaners.
There was no vacuum cleaners back then.
But that also was an implement of correction.
I have a little porcelain doll with a hand crocheted dress. I think she's very, very cute. Beautiful. What do you got there, Perry? Perry has the actual, that is a true tobacco tin with real tobacco in it. That tin probably goes back to I would say, the 20s. Looking at the typeface, that looks Art Deco-ish.
Looking at the soldier, it reminds me of a World War I.
Yeah, it's definitely World War I
uniform.
Yeah,
so
and it smelled the tobacco's in here. It smells. Hey, I don't want to promote it, but it smells really good. I don't smoke or chew it, or taste it. But.
So on the the Holden House was built in 1918, and you see an old house and you can appreciate for what it is, but if you sit back and say, 1918, the brand new car that was startling horses in the streets was the Model T Ford. And we actually have something very similar on the mantle of the fireplace in the parlor of the Holden House Museum. This is what was driving around and coming down from Chicago.
And those will be at the event when they have them. They'll be at the Lake Lucille in front of the Coquina building. What's this cranberry glass?
Oh, no, that's ruby. And, well, Ed said that there was quite a collection, and there is, on the mantle and in the parlor.
In the dining room, the Holden House was built as a wedding present for Tom and Ethel Holden. And one of Ethel Holden's passions was the cranberry glass. We probably have 40 or 50 pieces on display.
Here
and dust is free, right?
Yes, dust is over.
It's historic. It's historic.
Here we have a silhouette portrait of a girl. When folks could not afford an actual painted portrait, these paper cutouts were very, very popular. The Holden House is a modest home, and this is something that would definitely be found there.
Back in the day, the nearest photographers were in St. Augustine and also Daytona. So doing those cutouts was more practical than traveling. 2 hours.
Okay.
Perry's holding up a porridge. This is for the children. It has, if you see that little screw at the top, you would pour hot water in the basin, and that would keep the baby food warm.
My guess is it's kind of got a lot of lead in it. Because kind of,
You're not going to drink it.
No, I'm just saying it's kind of funny that back those days something was contaminated.
Back in those days, the paint had lead.
But
too,
we all
so
lived. We're all living. I probably ate out of this as a kid. Who knows?
This is a needlepoint. This was very, very common. Women would show their household womanly duties was hand painting on porcelain. Knitting and sewing.
So Bunnell was also a hotbed of the women's voting rights movement. There was a woman named Alice Scott Abbott who was a nationally known women's voting rights speaker. The historic vote for women's voting rights happened in 1920. And there was a group here called the Ever Ready Society, and they spent a lot of time quilting and also doing needlepoints like that.
Well, we need to move on to the last segment here. So.
And I just want to note that at the gallery, we have a very large, our last week's show was on vinyl. We sell every day jewelry, records, and books. We do have some really wonderful old books. They are locked up in a cabinet because they're quite fragile, but we have children's books, military.
What's this, Diana?
That is a pastel. He is a listed artist. And whenever I look at this pastel, this morning when I was gathering these items, I said that would be over the mantle at the Holden
It
house.
probably would. Yeah. It's very classy.
Very, very. Now, this is a button. This is to do your granny boots.
Huh?
And a shoehorn and the matching vanity mirror.
Well,
So-
this was a great show so far, but I have something for you that you don't know about.
All right.
And we don't have a lot of time, so
All
I
right,
know Mark,
because I
Mark
ha-
is going to
I
have to
have-
do something.
I have
so
2 more things I need to
Right.
bring up. So,
go to it quick. Hurry. It's very
well, I was
important.
going to end on this note.
Go ahead, end. I'll end too, but go ahead. Mark will squeeze it in.
All right. So, just to wrap up our show, I do want to plug the Estate Planning Council of the Fun Coast. We have our monthly meeting is March 20th. If you're a professional in the area, accountant, attorney, financial manager, planner, at the Hilton Garden Inn, we are having our meeting from 8 to 10. So I encourage those who'd like to join us. And then PNC Bank cordially invites folks to the Palm Coast Arts and Wealth Series. I will be the speaker at Channelside Club. It's the old yacht club. And that is Wednesday, March 26th from 11 to 1. It's a wonderful catered lunch. If you'd like to RSVP, it's fern.haley@pnc.com. This is going to be a really fun event. I encourage those, if you're interested in the art scene today, I'll be using examples that were shown at the Art Miami show and talking about the today's art market.
All right, so it is Bike Week,
Yeah.
all right, and it kind of brought back a memory, and so
Perry is the secret sauce to the show.
If you
He
remember,
adds the sauce to the stew.
I purchased a 1969 Harley Davidson at a police auction, a police bike, and I had it painted by a friend of mine, Tony from Polo Auto Body in Yonkers, in 1978. And I said, I want to paint it candy apple green. And so when he said that, well, you have to go down and see this guy Joe Minotti, and they sell the supplies, and he won't give you the card because he's tight with his cards, and they're calling him cheap with the cards. But I asked my father-in-law today, and so I said, okay, I'll go there, pick it up, and while I'm there, he says, could you pick up the supplies for me? And I said, sure. So you have to go back. This is 1978 now, okay? I drive a black XR Cougar 7 with buckskin interior, Vogue wheels, spoke tires. Pull up in front of this shop, double park like everyone else. You put your four-ways on, you run in. Got to beat the cops before they give you a ticket. I walk in the door, and so
this?
I walk in the door, and I feel these piercing eyes looking as I walk in. Now, you have to understand, I'm a 20-year-old guy, 46 jacket, 29-inch waist, walk in the door, with my Italian T-shirt on, dark tan, and I'm saying, and I look for Joe. Joe has mutton chops, so I was told what he looks like. Very bushy hair, mutton
He
chop.
still has those sideburns.
So real quick, I noticed someone a glance at me, and I threw a glance back. Mark, I threw a glance back. Anyway, remember, this is 20 years in advance. So I walk in and talk to Joe, and I tell him I want to paint my bike candy apple green. And he looks at me and he goes, let me get my daughter. And he looks to the left, and there's Diana. He introduces Diana to me. And now you have to understand the window of time. There is no time. I have to buy this paint. I have to leave. I have to go up to Pete's Barbershop on 241st Street in the north end of the Bronx, get my hair cut for tonight, get my sun lamp, my shoulder massage, and my shave. Then I have to leave there, head over to the bakery, pick up bread for my mother for Sunday morning, run over to the other shop at the other side of town, pick up the cannolis, then run up to Yonkers, drop off the paint, go to dinner with my friend over at some Goomba Italian restaurant and sit down and eat there. And then I have to run back home, clean up, clean up, get dressed, and put my mohair three-piece suit on and head out to listen to the Tramps in some nightclub. That was the first time I met Diana. That was the last time I met Diana. 20 years forward.
Hold it, though. I talked you out of the green.
Yes, that's right. A very important factor of the whole conversation is she talked me out of the green. I got a candy apple red with a gold undertone and all that.
Are you
Come
giving
on
me
now.
the bike? Is that what this is about?
It may be.
Is this?
The bike came out so good they stole it.
They
But
did. They stole. But anyway, long story short, 20 years later, I'm working at another place with a friend of mine, and he says, my wife has a darling little girl that she wants you to meet. So, I don't know, every week, another excuse. So one day.
I was busy.
Yeah, I bet you were. So I said to my friend, am I ever going to meet this broad? When am I going to meet her? So he says, hold on, let me call. Now, this is 1998. Cell phones were, good luck. And there was a window of 4 miles on
No,
the
it was
Taconic
not- it
State
was
Parkway.
1999.
99, 98, somewhere in there. And he calls, and your friend Donna picks up the phone and says, I'm here with Perry. When are we going to have them meet? And I hear a little rumbling back and forth. I guess you were trying not to avoid it. But we ended up going out to dinner that night. And we had this conversation about something that happened 20 years ago about the motorcycle. And we found out that she was the young girl that I met.
Wow.
And
Full
here we
circle.
are. So here we are 20 years
One
later.
big circle.
And you got to understand, whenever we do talk, we have this conversation. We love the show. It was that conversation at the counter that was supposed to end in like 2 minutes. It took 20 minutes to have that continued conversation about the paint and stretch on. But it was so. That's the conversation we can have about art, about friendship, about love. So, anyway,
I'm touched.
Mark, one more time.
I'm touched.
Thank
With that,
you, Perry.
you're welcome. All right.
That was fun. That was a wonderful trip to our past. But don't forget, get in touch with Ed over at the Historical Society and become a vendor, become a patron, become a sponsor, get involved. The event again is June.
June the 7th, and you can call us 386-437-0600 or email us Flagler County Historical Society at gmail.com. We've got a Facebook page. There's information pinned to the top and then on our website.
Thanks,
Well,
Ed.
All right,
Very
thank you. I
exciting.
appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to this becoming a big thing.
We want to make a difference, and it's going to be great.
All right. Terrific. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mark. You've been a help.
Thanks for that, Mark. Appreciate it.
All right. Goodbye, folks. We'll see you next week.